Welcome to Village Vibes, the podcast that brings you the stories that shape Delray Beach. I'm your host, Gina Carter, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Janai Bowens is our Education and External Opportunities Manager. Janai works tirelessly to bridge the gap between the city and our schools, and she works to find innovative ways to support our students' achievement and success. There's so many ways that cities can work to ensure that every student has access to resources that they need. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the initiatives that are happening right here in Delray Beach. Janai, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to take on this role?
Yes, first of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction. So I have been in education for the last 13 years, and I often like to tell the story about how I got into education because that wasn't my original track. So I attended school at the University of Florida. I did, my bachelor's was in English with a concentration in law, pre-law. I wanted to be an attorney, a defense attorney. I always saw myself doing that. That was my dream from childhood, and I was dead set on that. And it wasn't until my senior year when I did an internship at a local high school. It was for like one of my sociology courses. And when I did this internship and I was able to really interact with students and teachers and parents and like really understand and look at the systems that impact our students and our children, our youth, which really dictates like why they may, decide to, to live a life of, risky behavior. I decided that I wanted to go into education to really meet their needs there before the judicial system. And so from there, I started to kind of like realign my focus and realign my why so I can go into education and I could benefit the students before they get to the judicial system. So my parents weren't too crazy about that switch and that decision. They were like, why? And I'm like, Mom, Dad, I have a reason for this. But here I am. And I really believe wholeheartedly that I made the right decision to go into education to really make, impact on those systems and those barriers that our families are experiencing. So that they can have better outcomes and success.
Amazing. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the city's role and how the city works with the public school system.
Right. So Delray Beach is very unique. For a long time, I just got into this position in 2023, but I've talked to a lot of our historians and a lot of our key players that have been here from the beginning. And Delray Beach has really made it, their motive to invest early in education and not just invest as passive participants, but invest in terms of, creating this position, creating the education board, and really utilizing our taxpayer dollars in order to make, a momentous impact in education. And so Delray Beach is a true partner, being that we work very closely with the school district. We work in tandem. So we align systems, we align coordinations of care, and we try to think of ways in which we can continue to foster this continuum of support for our kids, whether it be through the initiatives from the city, whether it be the city supporting the initiatives from the school district, funding partners, being able to provide out of school time within our schools, and really just looking at the unique needs of our cities and meeting that moment in real time.
That's amazing. And can you tell me more about the initiatives? What are these initiatives that the city is working on right now?
Right. So some historical initiatives include the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. I am in the process of re-engaging our stakeholders so that we can continue that. A lot has changed since the last Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We've gone through a pandemic. We've seen shifts in demographics, shifts in enrollment, shifts in our student achievement. So I believe that right now is the right time to, convene, our convening partners once again to really understand how the pandemic impacted our students and what we can do as a city to continue working with, all of our strategic partners in order to foster success. So looking at our student achievement, looking at our student attendance, looking at our behavior trends, looking at our enrollment trends, and figuring out what is the best way that we can, tackle these issues together. So that's on the forefront. Another one of the initiatives that I spearheaded was Hacktivate Delray in collaboration with the Achievement Centers. That has been something that has really been a huge success. So of course we're partners with Achievement Centers, with how we support their out of school time. But we saw that there was a need for civic engagement with our youth, so our middle and our high school students, so that they can really understand what it means to be in governance and what it means to truly use their voice for good. And so with the Hacktivate Delray, it's been a 6-month process. You have helped me tremendously. We've done all of our workshops here at his Old School Square. And so what we do is we get the kids together. There are 5 groups. They have 5 focus areas. So they're looking at food scarcity and how it impacts our communities, homelessness, quality education, and quality to mental health services. So they're looking at all of these facets, and they're working with our city staffers to do a deep dive with our citywide data and look at where we are, as well as pose solutions. So our kids are really using data in real time to make these solutions, as well as to make suggestions for policy. So they're understanding how government works while also being really great supporters of what we can do to move forward. And so our kids, it doesn't stop after the workshops. They go back to the Achievement Center. They compile, their work, and they continue with these conversations within their individual communities. And so we're really looking forward to the culminating event, which is April 26th, where we're going to really, put all of their work on the forefront, and they're going to be able to showcase what they've learned, suggest policy amendments, and it's really going to come full circle so that we can see that our youth are really dedicated to the change as well as to the success of our city.
That's amazing. I feel like this program is really focused on finding the next generation of leaders.
Right, absolutely, right, and that was the thing. So we are fostering the next generation of leaders. We are fostering, the next generation of our electeds. And we're taking students who felt that they didn't have a place within their city, and we're showing them that you do have a place, you do have a voice, and we're showing them how that equity of voice really fosters change. It only takes one voice, and that's what we constantly communicate with them. So it's been an amazing opportunity. It's been amazing for me, although it's one of my initiatives along with all of our strategic partners. I've learned a lot from this experience just as much as the students.
Is this something that's going to get repeated next year?
Yes.
And how are you building on this?
We're looking.
I see like there's fire in your eyes.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. We're looking to expand this. So we started out with a small cohort from Achievement Center. So we have about 25 students that are participating in this program, but we want to expand. And we have a lot of dedicated education nonprofits here that we want to lend this experience to. So while we started out with Achievement Center, we really want to touch upon and connect with the other nonprofits that are doing this work so that we can gauge some experience from them and some experience from their students so that they can understand how they play a large role in civic engagement and their civic participation. So we are definitely looking to expand. This is not something that we want to do away with because we've seen such positive changes in our students since starting this initiative. So.
Wonderful. So I think this is a good moment to talk about how local businesses and other organizations can help and kind of contribute to supporting student achievement. Can you tell us some examples of community collaborations maybe that have been successful in the past or ideas that you have for the future?
Right, yeah, absolutely. And so businesses are the backbone of Delray Beach, right? So we pride ourselves on really focusing and supporting our small businesses. But we want our businesses to connect with our students so that we can reinforce a workforce pipeline. That's another one of our big initiatives here at the city, fostering workforce development in our students. So currently our post-secondary continuation rate in Delray Beach is about 63%. So that means from the students that graduate at our local high schools, they are the ones that continue on to college and possibly, into careers. And so we really want to expand that number, right? And so even for our students who may not continue to go to college, we do want them to have opportunities within the workforce. And what that looks like is really having our businesses be strategic partners with us and open up that pathway for our students by creating internships and apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships and getting out into the schools so that our students can see these are our local industries and this is how you connect. So if there was a time for our businesses to step to the plate, it would be now. And the city has to work as a convener, with our businesses, and which we have. I want to give a huge thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, specifically Stephanie Immelman, because we've had plenty of conversations about this workforce development initiative, and not just conversations, but we've put it into action. And so, from that strategic partnership with the Chamber, we've come up with our workforce industry tours. And so we take our local students to a few of our industries. So they visited our automotive industries, our healthcare industries, and right now we are preparing for our construction industries. So those are a few ways in which we can really connect our students to these businesses so that they can understand this is in your backyard. This could possibly be a future career, and as well as ways in which to just be successful and gain successful employment and high wage and high earning job potential. So we are very encouraged to continue to foster those partnerships with our businesses. They have been absolutely amazing, and we know that it's going to do wonders for our workforce development pipelines here at the city. They can reach out to me if they're really in support of creating these opportunities for our youth. I would absolutely love that because we're always looking for ways to expand.
Fantastic. So let's switch a little bit and talk a little bit about equitable access to resources and just how crucial that is for our students so that they have those gaps in opportunity that exist, that we know exist,
Right.
How we work to close those.
Right. And that's a question that I believe we're constantly assessing. So currently, 98% of our students are considered economically disadvantaged, according to Florida Department of Education. All of our schools here in Delray Beach are Title I schools, which means that they receive federal funding in order to foster, better outcomes for our students. And so when we look at these things and how we, talk about closing the gap as well as continuing to foster equitable achievement, it's really a question of how we're aligning our systems.
For those of us who don't know, what is a system and how are you defining that for us?
Right. So a system is an entity or a barrier that could perhaps impact access to success. So we're looking at housing is a system, food stability is a system, workforce development is a system, access to medical care is a system. So when we think about all of these things and how we interact, in human and social ways with these systems, and how if we have an absence of one, that could be detrimental to our overall success. So when I do talk about systems, I talk about how the city can really leverage those systems. So as a city, are we, continuing to invest in affordable housing? Are we continuing to invest in early child care success? Are we investing in quality and equitable health care for our citizens? So because all of those things, we converge all of those things, it really does make a difference in student success in the schools. So we may think that, teaching and learning are the only factors that impact student success, but it's all these things that our families are interacting with. And so as a city, we do have the opportunity to leverage those outcomes because we talk about these things. We talk about mobility and access to transportation, which is another system that could impact student success. So I think that we could really continue this by having these larger conversations, by having everyone at the table that are a part of these systems so we can look and see if we are strategically aligning our efforts so that we can do what's best for our residents. And then that really is how we're going to foster true change and success within our schools.
Yeah, it's amazing to think how, for people who aren't so deeply in the education system and so knowledgeable of it like you are, how we can forget that no child learns in a vacuum, right? Learning is just a part of everything else that's happening that's either supporting or failing to support that child's growth.
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting to hear you talk about all those things and how the city can harness its powers to really bring those different systems
Right.
out into the light and help us understand that better. And can we talk a little bit about family engagement?
Yes.
Can you tell us about how important it is to reach out to families directly?
It is probably the most important thing. It's probably the most important. And so it's like we have to constantly ask ourselves, how are we doing that? So currently, Delray Beach, 30% of our families are speakers of other languages, right? So when we think about parent engagement, we have to have cultural relevance and cultural proficiency at the forefront, because we don't want to miss the mark in connecting with all of our families. So we have to think about, are we making our initiatives and our resources available and equitable to them? Is it accessible? Are we putting it in their languages? Are we connecting with them? Are we doing it in a culturally responsive way? Because we may feel like we are doing it to the best of our abilities, but it may not be tackling the piece that in which we need it to be. So Delray Beach has been amazing with, contacting our parents and really fostering parental engagement. We do it through our initiatives. We've done it through the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We do it when we reach out with, to our schools and our school leaders. We do it through our education board when we have, events that really connect with our partners. But thinking about where we are now, the landscape that we are now, and creating a more robust opportunity for our parents to really become connected with the city and making them just feel like they're valued and their voices are heard outside of the education system is going to be very important, and connecting with them to see their needs, right? So, we may think that we are the experts and we're connecting with, our county and our state and our local providers, but our parents are the experts as well. So bringing them to the table and really understanding what is it that they need from their city, what is it that they need from their electeds and from their city staff in order to be successful. Going back to those systems, so do they need support? Do they need those social services, those human services? Do they know who to connect with when they're experiencing food instability, housing instability, things of that nature? That's really the true essence of family engagement and how we can be true supporters of our families.
So tell me a little bit about the future. So what is your vision for student support in Delray Beach? What's on the horizon?
So I like that you said my vision. So going back to including our families, I really want to connect with the community regarding their needs. That's on the horizon. I've been in talks with, our leadership staff and our elected officials about what is it that we do next, right? And so I don't want it to be a me thing, because this is our city. So I think what we should do next is bring our families back to the table. Understanding what is it that they need, what is it that the city, needs to do in order to continue to support them, as well as bringing all of our providers to the table and just establishing a continuum of care. So looking at our data after COVID, there's really there's a glaring implication that we have to start early. So starting before, one of our largest campaigns or historical campaigns was a third grade reading. There's so much that happens before that third grade, window. So we're talking about how do we support our mothers from birth, right, until third grade. I think that should be the shift and the new focus for the city. So maternal care, like are we investing in early screening for developmental screenings, which is a huge push, because by the time our kids get to third grade, they've already experienced these barriers in development and learning and speech and occupational, that as a city, if we champion this and we campaign about the importance, we can get them the assistance that they need before even entering into school. So shifting our thinking from grade level proficiency to early screening and early development, I think would be monumental in terms of our families and how we, develop this continuum of support for them.
if our listeners want to get involved, if they want to somehow have a positive impact on our students, whether or not they have school-age children themselves, what can you advise them to do?
Get connected. Honestly, get connected. Some of our best initiatives have been grassroots and just through organic conversations. So when I talked about Hacktivate, that was just from a conversation with students. And I asked them, what do you need from the city? And they were like, they want access, they want to know how to attend a meeting. They didn't know how to attend, one of the commissioner meetings. They talked about mental health care. They talked about looking at where we are and understanding where we're going. So I think that if you want to be connected, if you want to get involved, and if you want to have positive impact, start having those organic conversations with those that we're looking to really benefit. And so from there, we will truly understand what the people need and really just refine and develop it as we go forward to continuously meet their needs. So I think the best way is just for us to talk, have conversations, always be actionable, and always be willing to adjust, especially to all of the many changes that that we experience in education and just in life in general. So connecting and reinforcing our relationships is key.
Janai, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me today. I have learned so much. And if there are parents out there that want to get more information, where do you recommend that they go?
I recommend that they reach out to me. So my email is bowensj, BOWENSJ, at mydelraybeach.com. I'm always looking to connect with parents on a one-to-one basis. Please reach out if you have any questions.